Golden State for the snap and the touchdown. They win the battle. Also attacking to the off.
What's up, everybody? It is another episode of Straight Outta WAC After Hours. So, remember, I put it in the tweet. Can anyone name those 4 games off the top of their head? Doesn't necessarily need to be a date, but the name of the game. I know you can name 2 at least. Can you name the other 2? That'll be very, very interesting. Daryl's here with me tonight from Riverside. We are both a little under the weather today. We'll just leave it at that. So, seems to be going around. Hopefully, we can get it out before WAC Vegas, which is in 2 weeks. So, yeah, good times. Daryl, how are you feeling? We good as always?
Best I've felt in the last couple days. I actually slept for more than 4 hours for once.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Come on, guys, comment. You saw the intro. If you need to go back, you can go back from wherever you're watching it and see the intro. You have to know who those 4 games are. You know at least 2. So comment. I would love to see the comments on it. So let's get those shared. So the topic of the day here, before our special guest comes on in a few minutes, Daryl, has been court storming after the incident at Wake Forest.
Oh, I have a take on that one as a former school staffer.
Here's Daryl's take on court storming.
Okay. As a former school staffer at the high school level and a current high school, somebody who's covered high school and college sports, we have to stop court storming for the safety of everybody involved. I'm sorry. I almost got trampled on at a high school section final almost 3 years ago now. It was the year where we were in the COVID year and CIF was using campus venues. School won on a couple of free throws at the buzzer. Security wasn't properly positioned and the student section almost trampled over me and another reporter. I don't like that feeling. And host site security, you are responsible for the safety of everybody in that building, from the visiting team to the officials to your own personnel. We've got to stop court storming, and we've got to do it in a way that says we mean business. Whether that's going after a school's NCAA tournament shares from the conference or some other means, there's got to be some teeth behind conference bans on court storming.
Okay, so I'm going to go the other way with it. I know that there's some safety issues. We've seen that this year a little bit. A couple of things I've noticed. Where do the visiting teams go into their locker room? Most of the time, it's in where the students are at, right? Like, that's where they put the students, is behind the visiting team's basket for the second half. So maybe change the spot of the students, for one. 2, there has to be communication that says we may get a big win, so we need to have our security at least in place to have a tunnel for the opposing team to go out. I've seen that a couple times in places. So, yeah, I think it just, if we ban it all together, man, it takes away from the tradition of college sports. I mean, this isn't even a basketball thing. Like, Tennessee did it this year. Or maybe it's last year when they beat Alabama. You know, like, teams rush the field after a huge win. Like, it's not like we're seeing it every night, but I mean, can you fault, let's say, Tarleton on Thursday night for doing that when that was the highest rated net opponent they've ever had at Wisdom Gym, right?
Yeah,
and
no,
I don't WAC tournament champions.
I don't blame institutions in that situation, but we have to maintain some kind of end-of-game control over the floor to give the visiting team an opportunity to egress safely. After that, be my guest if you want a court storm.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We'll get back to that in the segment. We just got a guest here on our show. It is late in East Texas. He's getting ready for a couple of big ball games this weekend. SFA women's basketball head coach Leonard Bishop. Len, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Just trying to relax. Got the kids down, so just trying to relax and watch some good basketball.
Very nice. Very nice. It's been kind of a whirlwind couple days in Nacogdoches with Ryan Ivey leaving to athletic director Ryan Ivey leaving to go to La Tech. You guys beating Utah Valley by 49 on Saturday, and then interim athletic director was named today. So, how do you prepare for a ball game with all maybe the distractions, I guess, going on?
Yeah, keep the main thing the main thing. My job is to try and go out here and prepare these ladies to win basketball games and serve them the best way I can. So I keep the main thing the main thing. I don't worry about that. Obviously, I'm happy for Ryan. I worked with him back in the day at A&M Commerce. Me and him, we go back a ways, and I was happy to have him as my athletic director here at Stephen F. Austin. But again, we're gonna miss him. But again, best of luck to him in the future as well.
Leonard, I want to talk about your team this season. You guys have had a little
Let's
bit
talk
of
about the week ahead.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
Before we get to the week ahead, I kind of want to talk about the year that has been so far. You guys have had a little bit of everything. Some nice wins, some not so nice losses. How far has this team come since you took over, in the middle of the summer or right after Mark Kellogg left from West Virginia to where we are now where, you guys are really just one unfortunate loss to UTRGV from being in the race for the regular season title.
Yeah, again, you talk about that loss, but again, every loss is just counts for one. And we didn't have it that evening, and they did. So it's the organic growth of a team. You have your ebbs and flows, and you have a first year head coach trying to figure things out on the fly, building this plane as I'm flying it. And so again, we've had ups and downs, and luckily, it looks like right now that we're playing at the right pace at the right time. So. Again, we got 4 games left before we head to Vegas. So, again, we're just trying to sharpen everything up before we get there.
Can you talk a little bit about, the fact that maybe it's not the same player night in and night out for you that's having a big night? Kyla did it at ACU. Kirsten's done it for you. Avery Van Sickle had a big week. Just the fact that you have multiple players that can step up at any given moment, it's got to be nice as, going into the final stretch of the season.
For sure. No, again, as a coach, that is a good comfort level knowing that you have a lot of people that can step up and lead you in scoring and lead you in assists. And, again, I think the assist has been the reason why we've been able to show all of our weapons in the last few games. So we've got to definitely keep the assist numbers up and keep sharing the ball.
This week with CBU and GCU coming to town, obviously you split that trip going out west. Struggled, I think, from the floor in those 2 games, less than 40% total shooting. What's going to be key for you guys offensively to succeed, especially against GCU, where it seemed like when you guys played them in Phoenix, they had the pace they wanted. They just didn't make their shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, again, 2 really good teams coming in here that are both well coached. So again, we'll have to make sure, we're dialed in offensively and defensively. But from an offensive standpoint, just, kind of echoing what I just said, just making sure we're sharing the ball, making them guard every single inch of the floor, and then at the right opportunities, attacking the paint and finishing at the rim and also hitting our shots from the outside. We've got to make sure that, again, like you said, I felt like we set offense back a couple years in that game at Grand Canyon. Both of the teams could make shots. I feel like they definitely left some shots out there that they wish they could have made as well. So again, hopefully we're both hitting and it's an exciting game.
When you play CBU, is it first 1 to 100 in that ball game, considering both offenses are crazy good? I think you had 172 total points in Riverside when you played them back on January 29th. So
yeah. When we played them in January, I think they had a lot more the 179 than we would have liked for them to have. So again, no, you definitely have to be ready to keep pace offensively. Again, they're very potent on that side of the ball, one of the best in the country. So you got to be ready to make your shots. You got to be ready to stick it at the rim as well. You got to make your free throws. You got to make everything offensively, but then also, defensively, we gotta have some tricks in our bag to try and stop them. And again, and they make that tough with the personnel that they have and the coaching that they have. So shouts out to them because they're a really talented team. But again, you want to test yourself versus the best of the best.
They've won the last 3 in the rivalry between the 2 programs going back to Vegas last year and then the January meeting. Mm-hmm. As you look at the film on them, what makes them so tough to prepare for? I mean, you saw that they went off for the 23-pointers against Tarleton on Saturday, but what makes them so tough as an offense that you have to prepare for? Is it the fact that they are so proficient 1 through 5 in taking those 3-pointers? Is it just something else?
They have good players. That helps. They have really good players, and Jared does a good job of putting them in the position to have success. So, like I said, you're playing a really good team. You have to be dialed into what people do well, and try and take and steer them away from that. But again, they have really good players that can play the game at a high level.
I gotta ask.
Yeah,
I
go
gotta
ahead.
ask, you went to Italy this summer.
Yeah.
Did you put pineapple on pizza? I know we had this discussion in the off season. Did you put pineapple on
Absolutely
pizza?
not. Absolutely not. We talked about that. I can shoot you a picture of one of the pizzas that we had. I'm not exactly sure what was on the pizza. It was delicious. But it was definitely like that was the moment. It was after I believe our first game in Italy. We went and had pizza with the team that we just played against, and we rolled them pretty good over there. And so I was like, okay, are they going to be cool about coming and having pizza with us? But luckily they were, and that was some of the best pizza I'd ever had. And almost with every meal over there, they drink a Coke, which is right up my alley. So that pizza and Coke after that game was pretty sweet. My first game as a head coach, so it was nice.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the question about the pineapple on pizza too. Did any of your players put pineapple on their pizza? And did you make them run for putting pineapple on their pizza?
No, not to my knowledge. There was not any fruit put on pizza. I would not have made them run for it
Very nice,
anyway.
Lady Jacks, like
BU is our hashtag because again, we want everybody to feel like they can be themselves. So, again, to be your best self, you got to be you. So no, I wouldn't have run them for that. So no, they're good.
Leonard, do you feel like you guys are getting the
Nice.
benefit of that trip as we reach the back end of the schedule? We're 3 weeks from WAC Vegas. Do you feel like the benefits of that trip are starting to reap themselves as you guys are on the floor now?
Well, I think anytime you're able to get your team together a couple weeks ahead of time and to get some early practices, and like I said, for me as a first year head coach, just to get the kind of rough drafts out of the way across the country. I mean, across the water, so nobody could see me, butchering timeouts and things like that. I think that was invaluable. So, just getting an early start on everything from offense to defense to just learning each other and how we play. Was really, really good for us.
What's the biggest thing
we're
you've
gonna
learned in
let
year
you go.
one?
Oh, go ahead, Daryl. Sorry.
What you got?
What's the biggest thing you've learned in year one as a head coach?
Again, just to ride the wave. Again, you can't get too high, you can't get too low. Again, when I got my first loss as a head coach, I felt like the world was caving in, and when I got my first win, I felt like I was Superman. So again, just learning to ride the wave, not only after wins and losses, but throughout the game, to kind of keep my composure, so that my team can keep their composure, and hopefully we stay poised and get some more wins. So it's just really understanding that piece of it, from an organization standpoint.
I like it. Leonard, we appreciate the time. Good luck
No
this
doubt,
weekend.
man.
The Lady Jacks could mess up the regular season standings and put themselves right back in the mix when they host CBU and GCU this weekend. So,
Action Jacks, guys.
Leonard, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Leonard.
All right, guys, that was SFA women's basketball head coach Leonard Bishop. I'm going to show this one question before we go to break. Jared Gee, yes, UVU beat BYU when BYU was ranked. I believe they're number 12 at the time in Orem, at the UCCU Center. I was there. That was my video that was in the intro. GCU San Diego State. Yep, correct. That was this year. Seattle U versus New Mexico State. No. Good guess, though. No. But it is Seattle U. You got to guess the other team. And then Tarleton, GCU, last Thursday in Stephenville. So good guesses. One of them was wrong. See if you can find the fourth one that you missed. Anyways, guys, we're going to take a break here, and we'll come right back after this 30-second commercial.
WAC Vegas is back. The best fans, championship basketball, all in exciting Las Vegas. Join us March 13th through the 16th at the Orleans Arena for the 2024 Hercules Tires WAC Basketball Tournament. Don't miss the crowning of a men's and women's champion. For more information, go to wacsports.com/WACVegas.
All right, guys, we're back after that 30-second commercial. WAC Vegas, 2 weeks away. Tip off 2 weeks from tomorrow. WAC Wednesday is when the conference tournament tips off there. I'm excited. I'm pumped. 2 weeks from today, my buddy John and I will be going to the WCC championship game there at Orleans Arena. So pretty pumped about that. But excited to get WAC Vegas going again. Let's go back to this court storming discussion. Okay. Utah Valley did it when they beat BYU. Seattle U did it, and it was this season for everybody that's watching. So see if you can guess it. There was an incident back in 2013-14 at UVU when a court storm turned ugly when they beat New Mexico State for the regular season title there at the UCCU Center. Tarleton rushed the court. We've seen it before. Like, GCU did it with San Diego State, obviously. And I think, like I said, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. The staff has to be ready to set a space for the opposing team to get off the floor and kind of nudge the students into, kind of a corner away from the opposing team. Like that, and you need to switch where the students are sitting. I know that people love having the students behind the opposing team's bucket, but that might also stop it. Either that or change where the team goes in and out of the tunnel. One of those two things. So
that's my biggest thing. Let's make sure we give the visiting team a chance to get off the floor and to their dressing room safely. After that, all bets are off.
Yeah. It's a fun tradition. I know a lot of people are against it. I know a lot of people want it to stop. I get it. But we're already to a point where college athletics may not be college athletics again, with what's going on with conference realignment, what's going on with the Power 4 conferences, which was going on with the NIT making that decision not to take AQs. Let's keep some traditions, guys, some things that happen. I mean, when Tennessee beats Alabama for the first time in years, why shouldn't their fans get the chance to rush on the field and celebrate with the players? There has to be security precautions in place when those things happen. That's all I'm going to say. What are your thoughts, everybody? Let's hear them. Send us some comments. We love to hear your comments. We love to hear your thoughts on things. It's always a good time as we're here on the Strand WAC After Hours show. My internet is being kind of a pain, and I don't know why, guys. So I apologize if it's a little slow, if it's a little sketchy, if it's just that messed up. I don't know if it's my thing is overheating. It shouldn't be, but I'm trying here. I really am.
Let's get to the weekly award
winners. Let's talk about
week.
some big games this week, since we're going to do this on Thursday night after the games.
Yep. First, I want to start with the weekly
Let's do that
the weekly award winners.
Dejuan Gordon. Oh,
congratulations, Gia Adams, on her fourth straight
award winners.
Women's Newcomer of the Week award. She now has the lead in Newcomer of the Week selections, and Chloe Lemon. Congratulations, Brianna Gillen, on her second Player of the Week award. Her first one since week one with that 38-point outburst against UT Arlington, which was a career high and puts her in the 1,500-point club at Utah Tech.
38 points and 10 rebounds. Plus, I think she had 6 assists in that ball game too. So she was 5 away from setting the Utah Tech Division I single game record for points. And she had 30 with 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So you saw her teammates were trying to get her to score points. They wanted her to get that record in that game. I was watching it myself, and they were excited for her. JD Gustin's team has a big week too. So we'll see what they do. Oh, I love this time of year. On the men's side, it was Dejuan Gordon, UT Arlington guard, who had a big week. And then Devin Barnes, man, he went out for 33 points in that win over CBU on Saturday. A career high. Tarleton, 8 straight wins. UT Arlington, dangerous. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Nobody wants to see the Mavs at WAC Vegas. Tarleton is another one. I think they're starting to figure it out. They have a big road trip to Southern Utah and Utah Tech this week. So that'll be interesting to see after 2 big home wins. But, yeah, Dejuan good. The thing is, it could have went to Ollie Deba or maybe even Hunter Jack Madden. Yeah, Grant Boone, I threw that in there for you, buddy. I don't know if you're watching, but yeah. Ollie Deba went for like 24, 26 against GCU in that win, and they couldn't really stop it. So I was texting my friend Sam Brief, Chicago State play-by-play voice of the Cougars a few years back. He's now, I believe, still in Chicago, but he went and did baseball in Australia this year, called games there. So I told him Ollie Deba is one of my favorite players, and I will take that to the grave because he is. Like, just the slashing, the ability to get to the rim, he's awesome. So big win for Brett Tanner's crew this week, big sweep, I should say. And now they go on the road to Southern Utah and Utah Tech along with Tarleton. So we'll see what happens, Daryl. We'll see what happens. I think all 4 of the top 4 teams right now in both standings have clinched their spot in WAC Vegas.
And I think we've clinched down
5 now on the women's side.
Yeah.
So 6 teams are playing for 3 spots on the women's side. Let's look at Adam Monk's comment here. Adam, the NCAA needs to chill out. They are not I don't know what that sorry, they're not NBA, I guess. Go Utah Tech. We need all the help Thursday. Yeah. Tarleton's coming to town. They're red hot, but Burns Arena is always crazy. Like, Burns Arena is awesome. And that place is going to be rocking on Thursday, Thursday night. But Daryl, like, this race for WAC Vegas is crazy, right? Like, we got 5 women's teams. So 6 teams are vying for 3 spots right now. And they're all within a game and a half of each other, And they've all beat each other. The only one that hasn't is Southern Utah, who swept a couple of those teams. So Tracy Mason's team may be in, depending on what they do on the road this week. But, like, it's crazy, that race. And then the men's race is even crazier now, with Utah Valley winning 5 straight. SFA and CBU have both lost 4 straight. And ACU has won 4 in a row. So
you talk about a team that's in need of a little bit of an injection of life. It's the CBU now. After that grinded out win over UT Arlington, like you said, they've dropped 4 straight. I think, 3 of them down to the final possession?
Yeah, and I want to point out some stats from that. I got this from our good friend Braden Bell. I should have brought him on the show tonight. So just tell him, Braden, if you're watching, I love you, man. I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you. But, okay, so he sent me a couple of stats. Last 5 games comparison. Hunter Goodrick is averaging 8 points per game, 6.8 rebounds in 30.6 minutes. Kendall Coleman, who comes off the bench, is averaging 7.6 points, 6.4 rebounds in 16 minutes. The other stat that he sent me, excuse me, he said this, everyone assumed this offense would be the thing to fall apart after Dom injury. It's been the defense. During the 5-game losing streak, CBU is giving up 77 points per game and allowing teams to shoot 51% from the field and nearly 45% from 3-point range. Before this streak, they were allowing just 64 points per game, allowing teams to shoot just 43% from the field and then just 31% from 3-point range. So it's not their offense, it's their defense that has kind of taken a back seat. And maybe that's a cue that Don Daniels Jr. should be the defensive player of the year when, they're giving up that many points. That's pretty wild through a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, I think the concerning thing is the team, the nearly 50% 3-point percentage in that whole mix. I mean, sure, you've been in games right down to the buzzer, but, you've got to find ways to close people out from the 3-point line and make them beat you inside. And 45% over the course of a 5-game losing streak is not indicative of good 3-point defense. And defense has been what the Lancers have hung their hats on this year, for the most part.
Yeah. So here's the men's situation. UT Arlington clinched on Saturday. Seattle U's in, Tarleton, Grand Canyon, they're all in. Those 3 are in. they don't have UT Arlington marked yet in the standings, but there's no way that Utah Tech can catch them or they would overtake them because Utah Tech swept the season series against the Trailblazers. So, like, UT Arlington's basically in by mathematics, right? Utah Valley's at 9-8. They have Thursday off before hosting UT Arlington on Saturday. California Baptist, Stephen F. Austin are 7-9. They play each other on Thursday in Riverside. And then Abilene Christian is 7-9 as well. And they play at, I want to say it's at Utah Tech. It's at Southern Utah on Thursday, at Southern Utah. And then Utah Tech is 6-10, and they host Tarleton on Thursday night. So, yeah. And then Southern Utah is 4-12. UTRGV has basically been eliminated. There's no way that they could catch Abilene, Stephen F. Austin, CBU because they're 2-14 with 4 games to play. They would have to win 5 at least to catch those teams. So we have our first official exit from the WAC Vegas race. And I feel bad for the Vaqueros because they have not been healthy all season long. Speaking of Vaqueros, Lane Lord's crew kind of blew an opportunity, and I hate, I don't want to be mean or anything, but losing to Seattle U on Saturday, I know we talked about this already, but man, that's a big loss because it vaults Seattle U into the discussion and now makes it so UTRGV may have to win at least 2 or 3 of their final games.
Problem is this week, the Vaqueros welcome the top 2 teams to Edinburgh.
Right. Yeah.
So will they end up being a win short? Will Seattle catch and pass?
Yeah, it's crazy.
You got to give a lot of credit though to Seattle and UTRGV, the way those teams responded after pretty slow starts to the year to even make themselves contenders for the 8th spot. Kudos to those coaching staffs for keeping their kids in it and staying with the course and finding ways to make themselves relevant.
Yeah. Adam sent this message. Running on the court is what college is all about. We need to chill out before we lose everything. I don't know that running on the court is what college is all about. It's part of the experience, but you have to pick and choose your battles when you do that. I believe Utah Tech's done it before, too, when they beat Utah Valley, when they've had a win over Southern Utah. So, it happens. Ray Silva down in Edinburgh. Hey, Ray, buddy, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to come back after I take a drink here, and we are going to talk about Coach of the Year candidates right after this.
WAC Vegas is back. The best fans, championship basketball, all in exciting Las Vegas. Join us March 13th through the 16th at the Orleans Arena for the 2024 Hercules Tires WAC Basketball Tournament. Don't miss the crowning of a men's and women's champion. For more information, go to wacsports.com/WACVegas.
All right, guys, we're back. Remember, WAC Vegas is, 14 and a half days away now?
Yep.
Starts 2 weeks from tomorrow at the Orleans Arena. The women's tip us off in the first 2 games, and the men are in the evening. So good times, and there's still plenty to play for. There are still 6 teams on the women's side playing for 3 spots. There are 4 teams on the men's side playing for 2 spots. So as much as I love Tennessee at Southern Utah, wish the T-Birds could get in. It just hasn't worked out in their first year under Rob Jeter. So let's talk Coach of the Year. Yeah, Ray, I'm glad you noticed since nobody else noticed it. Guys, I rearranged my pennants here, and I got more too. I can't tune it because my camera's over there, but Southern Utah, CBU, SFA, ACU, Utah Valley, UTRGV, UT Arlington, GCU is right here behind me, and then Utah Tech is right here. Okay. I'm having a rough night. I'm getting, I promise for all the Tarleton fans, I'm getting Tarleton and Seattle U this week, so It'll be here this week, and you'll see the whole plethora. All 13 teams will be up there. But Ray, I'm glad that you noticed. Since nobody else commented on it, that I changed the way the pennants have looked. People will say I'm biased because I have Utah Valley right straight behind me in the picture. Well, if you don't already know, I graduated from Utah Valley, so of course there's going to be a little bit of bias, but I can still be unbiased in my reporting, right, Daryl?
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
you can still play it straight down the middle even when your alma mater's involved.
100%. 100%. Oh, anyways. So let's talk about this Coach of the Year debate. And I want people to comment on their thoughts for Coach of the Year. I know one fan base will say their coach, another fan base will say theirs. For me, I think there's 3 on each side, Daryl. And I'm going to let you talk about the 3 on the women's side, or who you think are my 3 on the women's side.
Am I going to start first? Okay. Jared Olson from CBU with what graduated from last year plus what left in the portal. I mean, I said it before, nearly 1,200 minutes, 100 starts left, Riverside, and the Lancers are no Chloe Lemon, no Grace Schmidt for a large majority of the year, and they're still right on the verge of the WAC regular season title for the second time in 6 years. Molly Miller and GCU, the Lopes have reloaded in the portal. Best wins in program history over Arizona State and Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee being a mid-major standard bearer, the kind of program that those of us in the WAC are kind of looking our eyes up to the sky and saying that's who we want to catch, that's who we want to beat. And then the third, I think you could make an argument for J.D. Gustin, as banged up as the Trailblazers have been, for them to be in that 4 spot, in position for a first-round bye with all the injuries they've taken. I think he's done a heck of a job in St. George this year.
That's good. That's good. And I had him on my short list. I like J.D. Gustin. I really do. He's done a phenomenal job. I mean, when you lose Emily Isaacson, when, Amber Carson hasn't played yet, when you leave one of the Warren sisters who, tore ACL again or had a knee injury, she's out for the season. I mean, they've been down like 6 or 7 players the last month and a half. So that's been incredible. I have one in mind, and we just talked to him. And Leonard Bishop, with all argument they lost. I mean, you lose Jordan Harrison, who's a freshman of the year, first team all WAC. You lose Avery Brittingham, who is one of the best players in the WAC. They just lost. So Zion Nugent didn't play last year, but still. And then she has another season-ending injury this year. It's just, yeah. Anyways, I think Leonard Bishop, and he's a first-year head coach too. So,
which means that he's eligible for the Maggie Dixon Award too.
Right, and I don't think that SFA had the expectations that GCU, CBU, and Utah Tech kind of did, because Utah Tech had Brianna Gillen as the preseason player of the year. So they were getting noticed, right?
Yeah, the expectations were a lot lower for SFA than Lady Jack fans have been used to over the last several years. There's no doubting that. I've always looked at Coach of the Year as who has done more with less or the least amount back. And I'd have to go back and crunch them.
I'm going to say that's Leonard or Jared Olson.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and crunch the math, but to lose, like I said, I did the math earlier this year, it was like 1,197 minutes.
Yeah.
From CBU.
Well, and then talk about he loses Grace Schmidt early in the year, right? He's been without Chloe Lemon, who could have been the newcomer of the year if she didn't get hurt. I mean, and they have no size. No offense to Kinsley Barrington, but she is not a big by any means, right? So, yeah, and what he's done, I mean, I have the article. I'm going to put it out tomorrow, everybody, so check out WACHoopsNation.com. I'm going to put out an article of my candidates for WAC Coach of the Year, break them down a little bit. Let's talk about the men. Can you name the 3 on the men's side that I'm thinking about?
Bryce Drew, Joseph Jones, and boy, for my money, KT Turner.
Great. Let's let the people that are watching answer this. If you're watching, you just heard the 2, right? Bryce Drew and Joseph Jones. Who is the third one that I'm thinking of? Comment in the comments section. I want to hear to see if anybody picks it up. I'm not going to tell anybody. But first off, I talked to Joseph Jones earlier today. It was good conversation. I love the statement where he says, "We put our hard hats on and we just go to work." And they trust one another. He said, we're not the most talented team, we're not the most talented staff, but we work hard and we trust one another and we just go to work, right? And I love that mentality, especially considering that he took over November 19th, right before they're going to the SoCal Challenge when Billy Gillespie had to leave the team for a medical circumstance. I mean, he's won 18 games. They've won a Division I best 20 games. This first 20 win season in the division era for the Texans, right? And now they're in the mix for the regular season title. Like, that's hard to ignore. And this was a team that didn't have, I think they were picked 6th in the coaches poll in the preseason. And then I picked them 11th because I didn't know what they had coming back. I did know with Ja'Cory Smith, Lou Williams, and Keandre, but like they lost so much that it was hard to put them above other teams. And I still think about that UTRGV game where I was at when Tarleton was down there and they trailed like 17 or 18 at one point. And when they took the lead, Ja'Cory Smith looked right at me. And I don't know if he really knew who I was, but he looked right at me. He's like, hey, you. And I don't know if that was, him saying you chose wrong, wise friend. So and Bryce Drew, I mean, what they've done with the target on their back all season long, best record best start in program, at least in the Division I era. They've been, they've been getting votes in both national polls. They've been a top 50 net team all season long. They have the win over a nationally ranked San Diego State squad. Like, you can't ignore that. And he's a semifinalist for what is the Lou Henson?
Yeah, the mid-major coach of the year
award. Yep. And so you can't ignore that. Even with the 2 losses this past weekend, I don't think it diminishes anything. Like, he had to put together almost a whole new team. Yeah, you have Ray Harrison come back. Yeah, you had Gabe McLaughlin come back, but they added Duke Brennan. They added Ty and Grant Foster, who's been fantastic coming off, all the sitting out of season last year and the injuries that he's dealt with. Colin Moore, and he's just, and Javon Blackshear, they worked him back into things. So, like, those are 2 guys that it's hard to ignore. Anybody, comment below or comment in the comment section. You can tweet it at us, if you're watching on Twitter, who you think my 3rd coach is in my list. My short list for Coach of the Year on the men's side. I'm going to go back to Daryl. Daryl, who do you think?
I think my 3rd
no
coach
looking at stats either. I can see you looking at a computer. No looking at stats.
My 3rd Coach of the Year candidate is KT Turner from UT Arlington.
Thank you. There it is, right there. Listen, they are going to possibly have a winning season in UT. They need 1 win to have a winning season, at least in the regular season. They're going to, unless something crazy happens next week, because I don't know how they're going to do this week at Seattle and at Utah Valley. They could clinch a top 4 seed to the WAC tournament, guys. What he's done. The other thing that is big for me, okay, he kept a couple guys in Arlington, Shamar Wilson and Brandon Talbot, 2 of the bigger names that were stayed there. Shamar Wilson is one of the best in the bigs or in the league. And then you add guys like Philip Russell, who, luckily you lucked out with that NCAA ruling back in December, or the court ruling back in December. Dejuan Gordon, who I think he's put that whole New Mexico State debacle from last year behind him because he is playing lights out right now. And then Kai Williams, who could be the freshman of the year, could be the newcomer of the year. I think he's in that discussion with Ty and Grant Foster for those awards. So this team is really, really good, and they're dangerous. They're dangerous, and I'm looking forward to see what they do this week on the road at Seattle and at Utah Valley to, before they go back home to finish out the season. So good guess, Daryl. Allen, good pick. KT Turner. Those are my 3. Bryce Drew, Justin Jones, and KT Turner are my 3 on the short list. It's been we could put Todd Phillips in there too with what he's done over the last, 3-4 weeks. And they won 5 in a row. They won road games. Now they host UT Arlington, to cap off a three-game home stand before finishing at Tarleton at ACU next week. So, Chris Victor's there too. Another thing, Chris Victor could be on another 21 season. That'd be 3 in a row. I think that the last time that happened was in the 60s for the Redhawks. So, a lot going on. But like you said, when you do less with more, I guess you could say, that's a big sticking point for me.
Yeah, that's how I've always viewed it. Is the coach that's able to get more with less in his or her bag. And I think the coaches that we've named have either met or exceeded expectations in a lot of cases from where their teams were picked when we got started in October at Media Day.
Yep, 100%. 100%. Ray, I'm going to show your question here, and this will be the last thing that we get to. Who would be most disappointing team despite having returned players? Ooh, don't ask me that now. Ask me that in 2 weeks. Because I can name 3 teams that might be on that list depending on what happens over the next 2 weeks. So one of them, you already know. I thought UTRGV was going to be so much better, but injuries depleted that entire roster. UTRGV played with 7 scholarship players this past week in their trip to Utah Valley and Seattle U. 7 scholarship players.
I mean, TCU was at that point. They had walk-on tryouts. TCU's women were at that point. And they had walk-on tryouts.
That were dressed for walk-ons this week, but man, and they played well for 25 minutes or so. But then you can see they ran out of gas. But they were going to be the biggest team. They were going to be the deepest team. Then they lose Aaron Freeman in January. They lost Hassan Abdul Hakim in January. It's just one of those things. I don't want to say I'm disappointed, just sad, because that team could have been much better if the injuries don't deplete them. That's my thought on UTRGV. So, anyways, we're going to wrap things up here. Big Thursday night as we get down to WAC Vegas. Some big games on the women's side. Dale, take us through a couple that you're watching on Thursday night around the WAC.
For that Thursday night slate, obviously all eyes on Nacogdoches as CBU makes the return trip to SFA. Lancers have won 3 straight matchups in the series going back to January. And then the road game in Nacogdoches last year and Vegas for the WAC semifinals. A 4th straight win in that series would go a long way towards CBU keeping themselves in position for the WAC regular season title going into next week.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest game of the night on the women's side, right?
And that definitely is the biggest game on the women's side. And then in that race for the 8th seed, you've got Southern Utah visiting Abilene Christian. Tracy Mason's bunch there with a big opportunity to climb up the board even more. And let's not forget, the first time those two met, it was quite the barn burner in Cedar City. Came down to a Samantha Johnston blocked shot to preserve the Southern Utah win. I think it was like an 80-78 type game. And then the third game I've got my eye on is, and I know it's not favorable to the Redhawks, but it's Seattle U at UT Arlington. Skylar Young's team is playing pretty well the last several weeks. This would be their biggest win of WAC play.
It's going to be a lot of points scored in that game at College Park Center. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. On the men's side, we'll close this out. A couple of big games. Actually, they're all big. Not necessarily UTRGV at Grand Canyon, but Abilene Christian at Southern Utah. Can the Wildcats, keep winning? They won 4 straight. If they win a 5th, that could clinch their trip to WAC Vegas. Very possible. Tarleton at Utah Tech. Utah Tech is right on that cusp. At 6-10, and Tarleton's trying to keep pace for the regular season title. And Burns Arena is always tough to play. Just ask GCU, ask Utah Valley. Seattle U had to win on a buzzer beater. SFA lost there. So, Burns Arena is tough to play. Southern Utah lost there too. So, That'll be an interesting game. SFA at CBU. CBU's lost 5 straight. SFA has lost 4 straight. This will be the 3rd straight road game for the Jacks on Thursday night in Riverside. Who's going to break their losing streak? Because that would get them 1 win closer to WAC Vegas, or punching their ticket to WAC Vegas. UT Arlington and Seattle U has seeding written all over it. Okay, if UT Arlington can win, they would jump up in the seeding system and close that gap with the Redhawks. If Seattle U can beat the Mavericks, they might clinch that 3 seed down the stretch. So right now, Seattle U has 1.18 points. UT Arlington has negative 0.96 points. So UT Arlington needs a win and then a couple more, maybe another 2 Seattle U losses down the stretch. But big games on Thursday night. We love this league. We love everybody tuning in. Ray Silva, UTRGB is going to GCU and pull a result or 2 in the past. Yeah, they did. Dalen Williams with the buzzer beater last year. It was GCU Arena then. It's Global Credit Union Arena now. So we'll see. Stranger things have happened. I don't think anybody thought GCU was going to lose 2 games this past weekend. So stranger things have happened. Anyway, Daryl, it's always a pleasure. Straight Outta WAC After Hours. Subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss any episodes. We'll be back on Thursday night and then again on Saturday with this show. We're going to be doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday this week and next week ahead of WAC Vegas. And then we may do some live stuff from the Orleans Arena. We'll see. But appreciate all the time, all the questions, and everybody enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow WAC Hoops Nation on all your favorite social media platforms.